Hey guys, welcome to the RoundTable. Here at the RoundTable, we continue the conversations that we have had from Sunday morning and how you can have practical ways to help every person take their next steps towards Jesus together. Hey guys, welcome to the RoundTable. This is episode 61 today, getting up there.
Getting up there
in numbers, yeah. I'm Jenny Walker, the social media ministry leader here at Life.
And I'm Mike Hill, lead pastor at Life Church. And we have a wonderful guest with us.
Yes.
I'm Patty Myers.
Can you hear her okay? Just kidding.
No, you is what we're worried about.
I am?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Listen, I'm the guy that gets my beard stuck in the mic.
Yes.
So how in the world am I not close enough to be able to get it
I think you have the bad mic. I
There's
really
such
do.
a thing?
No, I really think so because
No, Dan's
when we were
shaking his head.
upstairs. Okay, whatever.
Dan's shaking his head. There is no bad mic.
You know what I realized?
Dan's the tech guy. Like, there is no bad anything tech.
Okay, all right.
What did you realize real quick?
That we haven't introduced the RoundTable for a while.
Okay,
like
why
what the
don't you-
RoundTable is.
Why don't you introduce it?
I think you should.
Huh?
You should.
Yeah, and Patty's been a long time listener.
She has.
I
She
have
even
been.
said,
Long time.
She
Yes.
even sends in questions.
I
She's
do.
engaged. She's like our ultimate person that this is how we
Yes.
want you to do it.
Yes.
Listen, send in questions, be a part. So Roundtable, let's talk about the evolution of the Roundtable. So the idea of the Roundtable was, we talked for a long time to say Sunday mornings is difficult because people come. Well, sometimes, people come on and off. Do you know
Winter.
the average church attender who feels like they come all of the time only comes twice a month?
Really?
Yeah,
That
so like
surprises me.
Yeah, statistically across the United States,
Wow.
if you attend more than twice a month, you're like out of the norm. Like most people
Wow.
only attend church twice a month. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Either
Wow.
way, so people come to church, they listen to the message. The majority of it is, which again, I'm not sure what this says for my job, why they even pay me, but like people come, they listen to the message, but then they don't always know what it's about later on. They don't think about it all that much. It kind of goes away. We put a lot of time and effort into like thinking through what should we be teaching and
Yeah.
how can it help people. So the idea at Life has always been get people in circles, because if you do and you talk about it, then it's going to go deeper. Like it's
Right.
going to settle into
Absolutely.
your heart. So we tell people to get into small groups, but that doesn't always work. People are in small groups, out of small groups, or never in a small group or community. So there's not a lot of discussion on deepening their faith. So what's another way that we could get in a circle? So we were like, well, let's do a podcast. Like that's what everybody's doing, right? Everybody's doing
Yeah.
podcasts. And it makes me live out my dream.
Because you get to be on the radio.
That I get to be on the radio, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the one thing that I've
Yeah.
always wanted to do in life.
You're
and
doing
now I
it.
found out the only way I'm going to get it done is go to North Dakota.
That's right.
I
Jaron
don't-
says you can come be with him
See,
anytime
there
and
you
do
go.
play-by-play.
But I told Patty, like, out of all the places I've traveled in the world, North Dakota,
Is it why I've never
There's just nothing there.
There's nothing there?
Nothing.
Are you sure there isn't like one thing?
There is. Well, actually,
Fargo.
Fargo. Well, Jaron is in Jamestown, and they are known for they have the biggest buffalo statue. I think
feel
it's
like
buffalo.
I've
It might
been
be
there.
bison. But when I was there, like everybody was saying, "Did you take her to the big buffalo?" And Jaron was like, "Well, we're going there next." And I said, "Are we really?" And he's like, "Heck no."
but see, that's
hilarious.
the thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're in South Dakota's got a lot. So
Okay.
Mount
Yeah.
Rushmore,
Oh, okay.
Custer State
That's what
Park.
I'm
Like there's a
thinking.
lot. The Badlands,
Yeah.
the Black Hills. Like
Got you.
That's all in South Dakota. You go up to North Dakota and
There's
it's like a
nothing.
barren wasteland.
Wow, that's
like you
sad.
drive for we went to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Did you go there while you
No.
were there? So that is one thing in North Dakota that's
Okay.
cool. Like we went through Theodore Roosevelt.
Did he live there or something?
It's like he set up a ranch up there.
Oh, okay.
And so they had
Okay.
a national park. And so that part was cool. But I mean, you drive for hours and it's like
Nothing, like flat.
I mean, out west, there's a lot that way, like nothing, but something
very
about North
flat.
Dakota is very barren.
That's sad.
No real mountains.
Because Mount Rushmore is so awesome.
But that's in
See,
South
I've never
Dakota.
been there.
You haven't? I would like to go. I went on July 4th when I was
Oh,
young.
nice.
And you liked it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, so that's my only chance. So the idea of being on the radio, so I get to do it through the podcast. We love that. It evolved into like Jenny gave us these statistics, more people watch than listen.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? We don't really know.
No, I mean, it depends, but I think more people are actually starting to listen.
Oh, okay.
I always listen.
You listen, never watch.
I think it's more convenient.
I've watched a couple times just because you guys keep saying you need to watch.
Well, every once in a while, you got to get on here
Yeah.
just to see the dynamic of what it looks like.
Right.
I mean, Jenny decorates.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know.
Right? She's got this new stuff. She got a crooked shelf, that we got up there.
I just still don't even think it's that
if Dan
crooked.
puts the camera angle on it, like, people can comment, but see what it looks like from the camera.
No, we're going to start putting, like, after you leave, we'll have you put, like, a quote on the board of just, like, your favorite quote or just something inspirational. So then each time our guests are going to do that.
They're actually going to write it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Patty has good handwriting. If I wrote up there, it would be like, why do you guys have Chinese? Like, was your last guest from
Well, that's
China?
why you're not going to be writing it.
Yeah, because nobody would be able to read it. But
Yeah,
it's got
nobody.
decorations, so people are going to watch it. But anyway, what's really made, I think, the podcast good is, one, Jenny has spent a lot of time like thinking through how we can grow it and what are things we need to do. And so she started inviting on guests, which to me has been the change. To me, the podcast is special now because we get to see it through so many different people's eyes. We get to get into people's life, which to me, and Jeff and Andrea Diamond said this a long time ago, the best Bible you ever know is through other people.
Yeah,
right? Like
walking Bible.
Yeah, so when you listen to other people and you can figure out life experience, those are conversations worth talking about because that's what's real. Like the reality is we can read scripture and you can memorize scripture, but if you can't live it, right, it just doesn't make any difference. So seeing how people are living out their faith through guests, and then just the evolution of, like, we talk about, the theme of Sunday morning, and we weave it in and out of the person's life. But again, it's more about, and this is what we would tell people, like, if you're listening or you're watching, the idea is that not just to listen and to watch, but to get to know the person.
Right.
Right. Because it can be game changing. Like if you come to Life Church, I mean, now you know Patty. Right. Like by the end of this podcast, people are going to know Patty and they can come up and say hi to her.
And they will.
No, and that's my point. Is like you could get to know people, and it's a great way to. Because how do you get to know anybody on Sunday morning?
Yeah,
like unless you're in a small group, like how do you really get to know anybody? And so it's another great way to get into people's life. It's a great way to be able to pray for them specifically.
Yeah.
And really it spurs on ministry. Because like just after the last couple podcasts, we've had this whole like, wow, what do we do about young people?
Yeah.
This has been a big thing on our heart, and it spurs us on as we hear other people's stories to say, well, what can the church do about it? So we're in the process of talking about developing another podcast, and so this podcast will just be about young people. So
we will be on it.
Yeah, no, we'll be on it, but it'll be.
Jenny still qualifies as a young person.
That's true.
Thank
That's true. Yeah, because how old are you?
31.
31.
Yeah.
She's the same age as my oldest son.
Okay.
Oh, I am?
Yeah, Jesse. You're
Okay.
Jesse Matheny.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
In
Did
one
you
year.
know each other?
I need a picture. I think I can't remember. Did we look him up? I can't remember if we did.
Oh, I have lots of pictures I can show you.
Yes, I'll find out later.
But either way, so we're this idea of, what, maybe it's a good idea to just get a bunch of young people together and just start talking to them about life and what it is, and start seeing through their eyes, and talk about certain subjects, and not necessarily just through scripture, but how does the younger generation see dating? How does the younger generation see money? How does the younger generation see being accepted inside of a church? How does the younger generation see? Because we're passionate about trying to figure it out. Like we don't have any idea how to do it. I mean, just to be honest. Well, because again, what church is doing it right?
Right.
I mean, right now.
Not
Including Life
very
Church.
many, no.
Yeah.
That's my point is that there's the generation of young people that are missing, and to me, that's the church's job to just admit your faults. You can say what you want about who you are and who's coming, but if you're not going to reach a generation of young people, you're 10 years away from being done anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? 10, 15 years away from evolving out of, relevance.
That's a frightening thought.
Yeah, and that's one of the most important times in a child, they're not children, but a youth's life is that time after high school. So it's really scary that the church isn't doing anything to grab a hold. Like you have all these high school programs and then you just send them off and on their way and expect or hope that something's stuck.
Yeah, well, I think we'll just put it out there. We're not afraid of giving young people a voice. Like sometimes I think people are afraid of what they're going to say. I'm like, you don't know me then, because I'd like to hear it all.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff doesn't bother me. What people have to say, what their thoughts are, what their views are. I mean,
They're wise.
I raised 8 kids, raising 8 kids from all different walks of life. I think I've heard.
I think you have.
Yeah, you probably have.
You know what I mean? And just been in a lot of different situations. I don't think anything's going to be like, wow, really?
Shocking.
I mean, I just think that it's good that we give them a voice. And I think probably young people today would say we don't have a voice in the old person's church.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So old people, there's the old people church, and then there's us, and they're out of touch, and and
We
so
need to
if
change
we're out of
that.
touch, and we'll just put this out there to young people. Get a hold of Jenny. Like, we are going to be starting this, and we are going to be going down this road. And if you want a voice, and you want to be heard, and we don't care what your perspective is, whether it's one from, I hate the church, and this is why I never come, because we're not afraid to hear that, and we're not afraid to talk through those things, or wherever you're at in life, get with Jenny, and there's a way on the podcast she'll tell you at the end to be able to get a hold of her. And we want that voice. But the roundtable is that. And this will just be another extension of the roundtable and an opportunity for people to do, and have those conversations. So Patty,
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a big introduction.
That was.
Big introduction. So Patty, tell us a little bit about you. Uniquely, I think I've known Patty for a long time.
A long time.
Really?
A really
Yeah.
long
So
Like, how long?
I've been going here for over 11 years.
Wow.
So when I first started, you just had one service.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
I mean, she's seen the
Yeah.
the days of
it's crazy.
not
The
very
beginning
many
times.
people.
Yeah,
and-
because when I first came, you could walk in and you knew most
yeah,
of
you
the
knew
people.
everybody.
And Jamin and I could go and sit in the front row with no problems. Like last week I said, people are in my seat.
Somebody sat in my
Yes.
seat.
Yeah.
So, I told Mike, someone's in my seat. I might have to find a new church.
Well, and I think too,
No.
the greatest thing about Patty is I'll never forget her story. Like, she took one of my, I think it was starting point.
Absolutely.
You know,
I did.
a long time ago.
Okay.
And so
So-
we've taught starting point for here forever, and I'll never forget walking away and going home to share. I'm like, wow, like, that was a story.
Really? Oh, I'm excited.
At this point, Sherry and Patty were not in a relationship.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was Patty.
Okay.
was
That
coming to-
happened like 5 years later.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But when she first
Yeah.
came to Life Church, she took starting point, and I think it was unique, but it's really not unique. I mean, your
Yeah.
story is a lot of people's story, and where they come from. Not
Right.
really. I mean, I think a lot of people come from, regardless of whatever their past is, they come from and you can't, or you don't have to share.
No, that's fine.
I just think it's unique
Yeah.
because we've known each other for a
Yeah.
long time.
I'm kind of an open book. So, yeah. My ex-husband, Tom, and I were married for 21 years, and we have 3 boys together. And then I also have a daughter who he basically raised, but she's older. And then I just made a really stupid choice and, got in contact with an ex-boyfriend on Facebook from high school. We were high school sweethearts and ended up having an affair. And
Was it really through Facebook?
it was
Facebook was around back then?
Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
2005.
This was 2009.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That
So-
was when it was up and coming.
Yeah.
That was before a lot of people were on there. That was when I could post pictures of me drinking
Yeah.
because nobody was on there.
Nobody
with
cared.
better-
Nobody
back then.
saw.
Yeah, nobody. Yeah. Wasn't.
So I must have forgot about
Yeah.
it. But
So I ended up leaving Tom to build this relationship, which is the single biggest regret in my life. Ended up horrible, terrible. It was just a really bad thing, and ended up with a protective order and all of that. But meanwhile, I had grown up Catholic. So I was Catholic for 45 years. Went through Huntington Catholic High School all the
She
way.
was devout.
Whoa.
I was devout.
Yeah.
I was a Eucharistic minister, so I did
what?
the. So when they do communion, the priest would, do the body of Christ,
Yes.
and then they would have people who also the wine. You would say
yes.
the blood of Christ.
Yep.
I was a lector, so I read the message,
Wow.
not the
But she was
messages, the
high up
reading.
in the
Yeah.
I
Catholic
was not
Church.
high up.
That's
but I was
actually
You were a
involved.
participating
I was
Catholic.
involved.
Yes, very
Yes.
much.
I mean,
so.
there are people who are Catholic who are non-participatory.
Yes,
They
I was
don't even
very
know.
involved.
Yeah.
And so at that time, Jamin was very little. And so I was teaching preschool at Huntington Catholic.
Oh, okay.
And
wow.
when Tom and I got divorced, I was teaching preschool, making $12,000 a year.
Whoa.
So I got a second
Crazy.
job and everything. But meanwhile, this opening came at the Catholic school for a full-time job. And, I was barely getting by. And so I applied. and I guess I need to back up a little bit. I had gone and talked to my priest about all of this and everything going on, and we had known each other really well. I mean, he like came to my kids' graduation parties, baptized 3 of my kids. I mean, if you would have asked me back then who I thought the most highly of, he would have been the person.
Wow.
So I had gone and talked to him. And then when this opening came, I went to apply for this job. And he and the other priest told me I was not allowed to apply for it because of my life. So
now, again, let's put this in perspective, okay? Because this is a podcast. I'm for sure going to get in trouble.
I'm going to get in trouble.
No, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying because Patty knows my view on Catholicism because she's heard it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But some of what, like, this is a true representation. And I just want people to see it for what it is, you know, because again, it's not just in Catholicism. Let's just say it's in religion in general.
Yeah.
But it tends to fall into, you know, the Catholicism because Patty made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Admitted, I've made a mistake.
Right. Went to him.
Trying to figure out, now you're divorced and you're trying to figure out how to support your family.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out how to go down the road.
Yeah.
And here's somebody supposed to show the love of Christ. Nothing against, the guy at the time. That's not what I'm saying. But as people who are supposed to be more like Christ, right? Jesus exemplified this. Like he spent time with the sinners. He talked to the sinners. He spent, he would go to them and walk down roads with them.
Yeah.
And here's the disconnect. So Patty goes to the person she trusts the most. Right?
Yeah,
to the person
sad.
who she sees Jesus in the most and was denied for what reason?
Because I'm a
sin.
sin.
Yeah.
A sin.
Wow.
Right.
A sin.
So, and I mean, not on them, on me, I was doing the wrong thing. I mean, 100% I was.
But that's not, my point wasn't whether you're a sinner or not. Like we've already established, you, me, Jenny, we all sin.
Right.
We all fall short of the glory of God. And even if it was like, I can remember, I think you using some of the words like being in an adulterous relationship and some of the stuff that, committing adultery and all of these things that were brought up in these conversations. Right. Well, join the club with the people that are in their mind looking at pornography.
Yeah.
Right.
Who are doing the same thing in a secret sin and aren't being denied anything. And people aren't caring.
Right.
Think of the people that are living lifestyles of greed inside of the Catholic Church that are still inside of any church and are still being able to hold positions
because nobody knows.
Yes.
Well, and they do know, like some of these things are known. Like
that's
greedy
true.
people, that's
Sexual
not true.
abuse,
Like, I've seen people, greedy, outright, mean people, the leadership inside of the church, because the world, this is the funny thing, the world esteems greedy rich people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
100%.
Wow, they must be really good. And I'm like, their money don't mean jack diddly. Like nobody cares. They don't care. Nobody cares about their money.
Right.
I mean, these are people who have stepped on top of other people, and the church celebrates them because they're supposed to be successful just because they have money.
Yeah,
but yet they look at somebody who made a mistake, and made a decision and acted upon that decision, and then saying you're essentially ostracized and you can't do anything inside of that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to elaborate because I remember.
No, that's what happened is, so then I was told, I could still come to church, but I was not allowed to participate in any of the sacraments or do any of the things that I had been doing up until that point.
Wow.
So that made me feel real welcome.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to quit teaching preschool.
I was about to say, but they let you still teach preschool?
No, I opened my own daycare for 6 months, which I learned real fast was not for me. Because they're there all the time. They never leave.
Right.
So, and then I was able to, through a really good friend who was a principal at Lincoln, gave me a chance, got me back into the school system. Because I had taught 15 years before in the public school system, had my youngest and resigned to be home with him. So I got back into public school system, and so that part was better. But I felt like I'm missing something in my life. I needed that. That was such a part of who I was. So I came here that first week, and Mike's sermon was called "Don't Judge Me."
Oh, that is so cool.
So Jennifer Eller sat beside me because I came by myself, and I mean, I was a puddle by the time I left, just an absolute puddle, bawling, and so I came back the next week. So the first week you did truth without grace, which was my story in a nutshell. And then the second week you did grace without truth.
Right.
So see, when you say your messages don't hit,
See,
they hit.
They kept her here probably.
It did.
Yeah.
And so I tried one other church. I tried the Well for a week, which was fine, but I
Right.
came back. I mean, I knew that first week, I knew I was home.
Yeah, I was like, he was talking to you.
But it was, I mean, coming from the Catholic Church to here where it was the band and the worship and the hands up. And, some people don't even sing and it's the kneeling and standing.
Yeah.
It's not. So it took me a while. Now you see me in there. I'm like front row, hands raised and singing,
And you had never been in a Christian church before that?
not other than Catholic.
Wow.
So I did.
That's a big change.
So I did the Discover Life.
Yeah, and then I think you did Starting
Then I did
Point.
Starting Point, and I still feel like I need to apologize to Jim and Linda Gould and Dan and Rhonda Klein and Scott Little because Mike would do this and they would talk and, they were all on the same page and I'd be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What about, I had so many questions.
I bet, yeah.
But to me, that's
Oh my
why
gosh.
we do it.
Exactly.
I mean, the idea is the reason we do these things. The great thing about Patty in the beginning is she wasn't afraid to say, wait a second. This isn't, this should be a lesson for all of us, really. Like, if you want to really get anywhere, then you better start questioning.
Yes.
Like, if you have a
questions.
question about it, you shouldn't sit back and be like, well, I guess I don't understand, but he says that's what it's supposed to be.
Right.
We need to ask questions. And so at that time, I mean, if you've never been through Starting Point, I think it's one of the better
Oh my gosh, it was phenomenal.
studies that I've ever done. I do it. I've done it every year for years. Then we kind of took a break and then we started to back up with, the Grow Night stuff.
Right.
And, But Starting Point, again, getting the 10 foundational truths of Christianity, I mean, it really fractures religion. Right? Like it just takes all of religion out of it, takes all of what the church has piled on top of Scripture.
That's a lot for somebody coming
yes,
from
for somebody who's
Catholic.
completely religious.
Right.
Which is, very religious, very ritualistic, a lot of rules. And
How did you feel in that moment? Did you feel like, I don't know, was it just like everything that you had been told, not necessarily was a lie, but just,
not a lie, but just
you just felt, I don't know how to describe what.
it took a lot. I mean, it wasn't instant because I had a lot of questions for a lot of weeks.
Yeah.
And even,
I would
over a
say
few
a lot of
years.
years.
A
I
lot
bet, I
of years.
bet.
A lot of years.
And then 5 years later, I think Sherry and Lisa started small group Fervent. And that was when my dream marriage was completely falling apart. And
Wow, it's like
so
you needed it.
I joined that, and that group, we're still together. I mean, minus Sherry, who we miss every day. But there are 5 of us that started in that group that are still in there.
Wow. And it was like you needed that in that time.
Oh my gosh,
Especially
those
going
girls,
through that.
Those girls saved my life.
Right.
100%.
Well, because again, I mean, you got to think, I would say, and again, maybe I'm speaking for you, but still, you don't get out. Religion creates one thing, guilt.
Yeah.
And so when
yeah.
you live in religion and you grow up religious, it's hard to just strip away the foundation of what Scripture says. Because I can remember this is that I said to Patty in Starting Point, however many years ago, well, there is no more condemnation in the Lord. And she's sitting there saying, now, wait a second. I feel condemned all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
I still fight it.
That's my
still
point.
fight
You
it.
grew
11
up
years
where
later.
You grew up in religion is taught, or the religion is created to condemn. Right? That's why they create religion. Religion is made because they believe that condemnation changes people.
Yeah.
Right? Not grace.
Yeah.
Like Jesus said, grace is what changes people.
Right. Well, that's what the Pharisees did, right? Like they had so many laws that nobody could fulfill them. And so essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's taken me a long, I mean, I'm much better now. And I would say I'm much more faith-filled than I am religious.
Right. Right. But that's a hard thing. Again, anybody that grew up in any type of religion, where rules were more important than relationship, right? Because, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. So we know that like in the development of a child, rules are really important because they need to understand boundaries, like in the beginning. But what happens is that for whatever reason, we keep the same rules all the way through because we start to lose control when a kid gets older, right? So when kids start to develop in their life, the older they get, the more that you lose control. And so a lot of times we jump in with, oh, we need more rules. Like that's the way to do it is you just throw more rules at them and then you can regain control. Well, the idea is to build more relationship. And as the relationship grows, then so does this whole idea of helping them journey. And it's the same thing like with Jesus. So the church does the same thing. So the church gets this people of all sorts that come in that are all different places and everything's very much out of control, right? Because everybody's at a different stage of their life. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody is full of sin. I mean, it's just anybody that wants to say the church isn't full of sin is crazy. It's full of sin. And so Jesus taught us the way to do that, the way to walk down the roads is not to try to figure out how to be in control, but how to be in relationship. Yeah. Right. So he taught us this idea of sitting at tables with sinners, right? Like they taught us that, like go and sit at a table with a sinner, go and sit in a circle with a sinner, go and be in relationship with a sinner, go and help restore a sinner, go and help, do all these things where the church has said, follow the rules or you can't be here. Yeah. Right. Like follow the rules or you can't do, because otherwise, how do you control the masses? Because relationship isn't easy to do. Right? No. Like relationships. No, plus you got to just be honest and you got to throw your stuff out there and who wants to do it? Because it's pretty brave of you to come out and just say like, right. Like this is where my life is, or even to say that even after your marriage, like the next relationship was a struggle and it wasn't good. And, you're going down the same road and you made a choice and that choice blew up.
It did blow up.
You know what I mean?
Very much so.
My point just is that that's the way we get somewhere. Though.
Right. Yes. Right? And that's a lot of times I tell myself, and this is go along with the guilt thing, is I tell myself, well, the reason it all blew up so much is because I was not meant to be there in the first place. And so it was not a blessed union. Yeah. So.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. I guess I'll ask that someday.
One
of my questions, yes.
The point is that we all make mistakes. Right. And we've all went down that road. Right. And we don't get better because we feel guilty. Like there's nothing that restores any person living with guilt. Right. Like does that help you? Like when somebody reminds you of your past?
Absolutely not.
No, it just makes you feel stuck.
Yeah. And it takes you back there.
Right. Like there's no.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's no feeling guilty about what we've done. And what has happened in the past. Yeah. I mean, we can say like, you know what? I have a regret. But at the end of the day, you can't change a regret.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about it. You made a mistake. So we all make mistakes. And so the bigger question is, what do we do next?
Yeah. Yes. That's what it is.
How do we go on to the next thing and how do we learn? Yeah. Because if anybody would admit this, and very few people do, like, I don't mind saying it. Like I say from the stage all the time, like I make mistakes all the time. I just need to learn from them.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Right.
Yes.
That didn't work. You know what I mean? Like that didn't work. That's okay. And we try to lead the church that way. Like the church, we just flat out say, we're going to try everything. Some things work, some things don't work. Yeah. Don't get too mad. Like things change all the time around here.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They do.
They do.
The evolution of Life Church has always been like, who really cares? Like we made a mistake and it didn't go that great.
That's a good thing though.
It is.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, but I think we're trying again, if you're going to create a culture of grace, truth, and love, right? Yeah. That's what he wants. Like all of this to go together, then you also have to live that way. The church has to organize that way. Yeah. We have to talk that way. We have to be willing for all of us to admit that we've made mistakes and going down that road. But anyway, I kind of got off of it a little bit. Okay. But Patty, your life has, because then to me, this was the other switch. But and again, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, so you can say, once you got into the small group, you now allowed people to speak into your life in ways that never happened before. Right. And that goes into this like whole discipleship model.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, you made a mistake and you were coming to church, and at that point you might have had some voices, but you didn't have the voices like you have today.
No. Oh no.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's different, right? And so elaborate a little bit on that, because as we move forward and talk about this idea of discipleship, I do want people to see there is a difference, right? Attending church is different than being discipled. Right. And attending church is different than discipling somebody, right? And so we want people to understand the distinction and even how much it helped you. And again, I'm speaking of just from listening to Sherry talk about your journey because she loved you and loved, that how your life had changed and she was allowed to speak into your life. And then when you're having issues, you would call her, and so again, speak kind of to that change and how that change has helped you.
Okay. So I might cry.
I might cry too.
So, so I got into that group Fervent, and it was just a study of that book. And so we all talked about how to pray fervently. And the girls always joke because Sherry and Liesl had this poster with these shoes on it. And it was like a get to know you thing. So pick out 2 shoes, one that describes you as younger and one that describes you where you are now.
Oh, cool.
And so we did this thing, and then they asked a couple questions and we kind of went around and told something about ourselves. And I just word vomit. Everything came out. And one of them goes, well, that's what kind of group this is going to be.
That's hilarious.
But it was sort of a thing that it just started where we all felt comfortable to share.
Vulnerability.
And then once that was over, we started a second book. And not everybody stayed, but a core group did. And then we started a third book. And so we went through Beth Moore and Priscilla Schreier. I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah.
And we've done tons of Lisa Turkhurst and all of these different books. But as we're studying these books, we always have a time of, how can we pray for each other? What's going on? We got to the point where we started a text chain, a group me. So when somebody needs something, it's, hey, can you pray for this? And
it always happens in the late at night.
Oh, or in the middle of,
always,
Yeah, because I'll be laying in bed,
Her
sure you're still alive, and I'm like,
you hear her phone go off.
what is going on?
And it's not just one. It's like ding, ding,
No,
ding,
it
ding,
was
ding.
the group me because then they all start replying. Somebody's like, hey, pray for me. And then it's like, ding,
Praying.
It always happens. It always happens
I'm
late
like,
at night.
it's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
What is going on? Sorry.
No, you're
But yeah,
good.
No, I
That's
can
when you
remember
need somebody
I remember
late
the
at
group
night.
me
Yeah.
dings.
But, and when Sherry was going through, I think when Sherry was dying is when it hit a whole nother level because we were all looking for Bible verses and for encouragement and prayers. Just we had pages and pages of prayers that we were all praying for her. And I think as we did that, not only did it make us closer to her, but to each other, we grew so much in that. We had a couple deck nights out at your house of prayer and worship and just, like I said, those girls, if I had not had them in my life, I'm really not sure how I would have gotten through it all.
Yeah.
But
here's and if you don't mind me saying this, Patty, here is the cool thing about it. And this goes into discipleship. So one of the key aspects of discipleship is you have to be open for somebody to speak into your life.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the things that you allowed, and again, I'm saying this from the perspective of listening to Sherry talk about it, but you would bring up, pray for me for this new relationship. And you didn't have any problem when they're like, that's a terrible idea. But and again, take that the right way. But that's what discipleship is.
Yes.
Discipleship is being, because this is where people miss it, right? People want to be in a group where everybody agrees with them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People want to be in a church. We had this discussion before we went on air. People want to be in a church where everybody agrees. I'm like, that would be the dumbest, boringest. I would go crazy if everybody at Life Church thought the same way.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have to have diversity of thought.
Absolutely.
We have to have our open to, and we have to be open to people saying, what is wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah.
And those girls, when things were terrible and I was trying to make it work because I was telling myself, I'm married. When I got married, I intended it to last forever.
Right.
And maybe I'm the person because he was not a Christian, maybe I'm the person who's supposed to help speak truth to him and I just need to stick it out and the girls were like, Patty, just, what is wrong with you? I'm like, no, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And they would listen to me complain but they would also speak the truth to me as this is not right. This is not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I want people to see. So when we're talking about discipleship, this is the thing that I think we miss. And I think people, it's hard. They'll sit in a group. Jenny will be like, hey, this is what's going on in my life. And, and even though we know it's wrong, they're going to be like, Jenny will be praying for you.
Right.
Instead of saying, you know what, Jenny, That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Right.
Like, you need to hear the truth.
Yeah.
Jenny, and it needs
Yeah.
to be in your kind of group.
Right.
Like, it doesn't happen in
because
No.
we all love each other
That's my
and we
point.
know each other well enough that we can speak truth
That's
to each other.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But
And
that's
that's
key
the
to
discipleship.
That's the idea. Discipleship happens because you've made a decision, right? And you've made a decision to give your life to other people, right? So the
Yes.
start of discipleship is to say, I'm giving my life to Jesus, but I have to give it to other people.
Yeah.
And that means two things. It means that I'm going to give it from the perspective of to be evaluated and trained, right? So
Right.
part of me entering into a group would just flat out say, I'm opening myself up for you guys to know me, right? So if discipleship is going to work, the thing that we have to know is people have to know you,
Yeah.
right? And this is why people don't do it.
Yeah.
People get in small groups, but they don't want to be discipled.
Right.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
they get in a small group, and here's the
Yeah.
reason they're in a small group. I want to learn more and become a better person.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, no, I want to be in this small group, because learning is learning, right? Like, you guys, I mean, we learn all the time,
Yeah.
but the idea is I want to be known,
Right.
right? Discipleship is about being known and knowing other people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we don't ever get to that level, honestly, how does discipleship happen? And maybe, Jenny, can you speak to that at all? Like, have you ever been in groups outside of group homes?
Yeah. Outside of group. Well, I've been in
I didn't mean it in a bad way, but I wasn't sure how to say it. Like, outside of what was forced, because you were forced to a certain extent,
Yes.
to be in a group
Yes.
setting,
Right. I've been in a lot of settings like that.
right? But outside of that, like, talk to me a little bit about your view of discipleship. Like, how do you see it, and have you been, like, do you feel like you've been discipled and are being discipled, and or you're discipling other people? Because that's what Taylor talked about. So Taylor talked about on a Sunday morning the last couple of weeks of, like, we really have to think through this aspect of not just attending church, and not just going to small groups, and not just going through the motions, but this whole idea of being a disciple and making disciples, and so how do we engage into that, and what does it look like? So can you tell me a little bit about maybe your experience? So for Patty, it was, went through a place in life, God interrupted life, which tends to happen to all of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Patty's interruption was one thing, your interruption was one thing, my interruption has been something else. But he interrupts life, and we have a decision. So we sit at a crossroad, and we have a decision. Patty made the decision, you've made the decision, I've made a decision to seek the Lord, right? But then it goes to another level, right? And I want people to see this. Like, this is the journey of what God wants to do in our life. So we seek him, but then the first thing that he tells us to do is that for us to be in relationship with him means it pushes us into relationship with people, right? The crazy thing about people missing this is sometimes they come to church and they're the most isolated people ever.
Right.
Like, they come and go and they come and go, and really nobody knows them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but the more that you get to know Jesus, the more he's going to tell you to get to know other people.
Yes.
Right. And so Patty's journey is that of saying, okay, I came, and it took some time,
Oh, yeah.
and some effort.
Right.
Because think about this from Patty's perspective. You're going to come to a starting point class where you really know nobody, and you're going to, number one, question everything that you've ever been brought up in.
Yeah.
So this is part of discipleship.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to be discipled, then you better be open. And she shared her life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she didn't hide the fact that she said, I made a mistake, right? Like, so part of discipleship is opening up where we need help and where our flaws are. You know? And so Patty talked about that. And then it evolved into, and I think this is how God works, because she was open, I think God sent her that group of women.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. You
Right.
know what I mean? It goes deeper because you opened yourself up
Yeah.
to be able to get to that point. You could, but there is our part.
Right.
Like, what are we going to do to be known? And so Patty, after she was known by Christ, maybe for the first time, I'm just going to say that, in a real relationship.
Yeah.
When Patty came to Life Church, to me, what I saw in Patty's life is she got to know Jesus in a relationship and not through religion. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I watched it in her life. I watched her get a spirit about her that she never had before when she first came to Life Church. Like, you could see it growing. And so when she became known by God, then she wanted to be known by other people. And so the start of discipleship is, I want to be known, right?
Yeah.
So Jenny, your life, like, do you have any experience with any of that, or maybe share some insight of like how that went with you?
So the most recent one has been when I started at the cafe. So when I started at the cafe, it was in a time where I was switching between different group homes, as you like to call them.
I didn't mean it bad. That's not what I meant.
It's not bad.
I didn't know how to say it.
It is what it is.
Okay.
And so I was really, during this time, like looking for guidance, and Courtney, who was the manager here, she just, I don't know, she just was everything that I needed. She would give me advice. She would tell me when I'm doing something dumb. And the same thing for Rayanne too. And then with going over to Champs and having that group of women, that's where it was really like, they would call you out on stuff.
And a big switch for you. And again, I always tend to speak into other people's lives. I'm not allowed, know if I'm allowed to do this or not.
I know, yeah, right.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm like, one of the big changes for you is you've been okay being known.
Yeah.
When I first got to know you, you were like, I would come up to her at the cafe knowing that she has.
Okay, I won't talk.
No, I mean, you think this is wrong?
No, I don't even know what you're going to say. I just wanted to say that.
So I would go knowing that there was something wrong. Jenny, what's up? You doing okay? Fine. Running around like a chicken with her head cut off. And I knew she wasn't fine. Like I knew that in her life. And whether it was she didn't want to share it with me or whether it was I wasn't that person. But part of Jenny, when she got into bad spots, isolates. Like, give me away from
100%.
people. I don't want to be around people.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell people my problems. I have a fear that if people know that I did, I'm going to get judged. I'm going to end up back in the same place. I mean, is that
a little bit? No? I mean, some of it is I don't want to bring my negativity onto you. Like, I think that I can handle it myself. So I have a hard time letting people in on my problems because I just don't want to, I just don't want to bring you down. And I would rather help you with your problems than anything.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It is, until you can't do it by yourself anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But you would agree though, Jenny, maybe like Patty's saying, like she is where she's at today because of a group of women who, I mean, first the Lord, but then a group of women who've just said like, and I think every woman in that group would say that every one of them have added value to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's not just the whole group's there for Patty.
Right.
I mean, the whole group has added value to each other, and again, watching even the people inside of that group, like Anita and like what God's done with Anita and how she's just like, again, things have completely changed, in her life. And you can see it too.
Yeah.
Like you can see.
She's leading our study we just started.
That's what I mean.
So it's amazing.
That's my point.
She's awesome.
Same with Tina going through the stuff that she went through. And like you're seeing people who were somewhere who are now somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it's directly related to a group of people who said, I'm okay being known and I'm okay going down a journey to help each other. And I think that's the essence of discipleship, and I think that's what we need to learn. So my question, I guess, for all of us, because Taylor threw out the challenge that we need to be discipled and we needed to be discipling other people.
Right.
And so the challenge was in different ways, and you're going to find yourself at different places. So if you're a parent, the idea is you should be discipling your kids, and so what does that look like? And how do we disciple our kids? And how do we get it done when your life is nutso when they're young, and how do you get that done? And then there's this, how do you disciple adult children? Because it's completely different. I have all adult children now. And so what does it look like to disciple adult children? And even past that, what does it mean to disciple each other, right? That was the challenge that he put out there. Yeah. But essentially saying that, and I think this is probably true, is that stagnation in faith happens when discipleship doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? And so what, again, as a church, or what can we do as individuals, or what advice can we give to people when it comes to this idea of how do we get people to the place, like what got Patty there, what got you there, what gets people to the place where I'm willing, because I still say part of the problem is people don't want to be discipled.
Yeah.
Right? Like, is it?
Yeah.
Is that the barrier right now? Is people don't want to be discipled? People don't want to be vulnerable? People don't want to go down that road? Is that the barrier to discipleship? Because let's be honest, is it really happening in a mass level?
Not like it should. No.
And why not?
I mean, I think some of the reason is, people don't want to be known. It sucks to open up and have your vulnerabilities. I mean, I just said that I don't like to share mine because I don't want to put anything on anybody else, or you think you're okay by yourself. So I'm sure a lot of people feel like that way. But also I think until I had a true relationship with God, it didn't occur to me that I really needed anybody else in my life in
Sure.
that aspect.
Right.
And
So the first step you would say, Jenny, is we got to make sure that people have a genuine relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
And they're not just going through the motions.
right.
Because it's not like you didn't go to church.
Right. No. Yeah.
I mean-
I did every Sunday. Yeah.
Right. That's
and
what I mean.
Wednesday.
You grew up in the church. You had parents that,
Right.
were highly involved in the church. So it's not like, so we would say part of what we got to ensure is that people aren't going through the motions, right? Like
Yeah.
that they're not just like, oh, I attend church and I go to youth or I do whatever. So we got to ensure the personal relationship piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patty, thoughts? Like how can we help other people get involved? Or
Yeah,
what are your
I mean,
thoughts on that?
It is tough. And I think, I lucked out by finding a good group of women. But, that being said, I think I was here 5 years before I fell into that. But yeah, it's tough. Just in discipling kids, I bring my son here with me because my other three are all grown. And I think sometimes we just have to lead by, as far as your kids, you've got to lead by example. So he comes to church with me. He sees me go in my room at night to do my Bible study or whatever. But yeah, just being in relationship with people. I think it's hard to just come up to somebody, which I know it shouldn't be hard to just go, hey, you want to come to church with me? But you sort of do need to be in relationship with people before you can.
Yeah, so let's play off of your expertise.
Oh, Lordy. We might be in trouble now.
So one of the things Taylor said, and we're going to talk a little bit about it this coming Sunday, is that we probably should work really hard on these kids that are 16 years and younger, right? Like we should come up with a plan on how to train them, how to disciple them. One of the things that Taylor talked about was just what you said, the idea that people are going to understand faith by the model, not that's talked about, but that's acted in.
Right.
So you just talked about this idea of how you go to your room and your son sees you. Like that's this idea of living out faith and your kids are watching. So you've been a teacher for lots of years.
Yeah, this will be my 31st.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you've had lots of experience with young people, inside of the classroom. And so take some of that experience. Talk to parents today, from this whole aspect. Talk from the aspect of you raised your own kids. Talk from the aspect of what worked, what didn't work. Talk about it because the idea I think that Taylor was talking about, and I think this is probably true, Scripture says train a child in the way that they should go and they never depart from it. And I think, and again, speaking on what I think, but I think parents have a pretty good plan on saying, when you come home, do your homework, because I'm going to train you to be not an F student.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to train you to make sure that you pass.
Yes.
We don't want you remediating. You've experienced and watched kids that are trained by their parents to be athletes.
Yeah.
Right. Like
people
that puts in lots of time and lots of money, to be able to do that. You've watched or had your own children where you're saying, like, I want to train you to whatever those things are. People put a lot of effort in making sure that those things happen. Do kids respond to that? Like, do kids respond to training? Like, do kids respond to consistency and repetition and all of those things?
Absolutely. And relationships with the kids. Like with all of my students, I'm not going to get anything out of them as far as learning until they know that I care about them. And I think as far as training kids up, it's going to be the same thing. If kids don't know that we care about them, they're not going to listen to what we have to say. And as far as like hitting I think even before you can train them up as far as believing in God and all of that, we need to train our kids to be kind to each other and to have, there are a lot of kids that don't have any respect for anybody.
Sure.
Wow.
Right.
Anybody. But like you said, the consistency and continually being there and knowing those expectations are the same. Like I'm a reading interventionist now, so I don't have the same kids all day long. I have a different group every 30 minutes. But they need to know when they come in to see me, my expectations are going to be the same every single day. So if we want to train them to be kind and respectful and responsible, we need to have that expectation all the time. And I just sort of feel like, not that it just automatically happens, but when kids are used to looking at how they can help others or be kind to others, it helps them to maybe see more about how God sees us and participates in our life, and we, have our belief in Him.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So I've always been under the assumption that how we teach people to do life tends to flow over into like how they understand spirituality. So as an example, one of the hardest things that people struggle with today is that God's your authority.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
if he says,
Right.
you do, right? Like that's the way it goes. So part of obedience is trusting, right? Like I trust the authority over me, so I'm going to do it. And even when I don't trust, this is faith, I'm going to do it anyway because he's my authority. Like that's what he told me to do.
Yes.
I think we've grown, the world today respects no authority.
Right.
And nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that true? Is that not
And
true?
I think
And
it's
does
very
that-
true.
And then we say, oh, you should fall under the authority of God.
Because I think a lot of kids now, the authority that they're under, they can't trust it. It's not consistent. And it might just be, the kids that I work with or whatever, but a lot of the parents aren't trustworthy.
No, right, for sure.
So for them to trust and have faith in something else is very difficult for them.
Right.
I mean, and they're online more. They're getting more
Yeah.
in, like things in their head. They're having more different people talk to them at an earlier age. And who knows what they're hearing, listening to. And I think the technology has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Definitely.
I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, and here's something that I want to throw out there because some of my perspective has shifted a little bit since Sherry died, because Sarah, who I'm in a relationship now, comes from a divorce. And so I've never really been around anybody at that close of a level that's been through those because Sarah's listening to what Taylor has to say. And it's complete, like when Sherry and I listen to it as two parents in the home, what should you do is one way.
Right.
A single parent trying to raise 4 kids on their own, getting them everywhere they need to be, and then hearing, and I mean, this is nothing against what Taylor said, but like Taylor said, I'm teaching my little daughter I can't remember what Westminster, I don't remember what he said.
It is
like,
web something.
Yeah, but anyways, going through
I didn't know
all of
what
those,
it was either.
And I'm like, I love you, Taylor. But first of all, nobody knows what you just said.
We all had to Google it. Nobody did.
Knew what the Westminster whatever. And not to, again, and what he's saying is right.
Right.
Like, I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, no, he's
But how do you
right.
do this in a broken home? Because here's a reality. So I've done all of my kids' small groups except for Jeremy. So I never did Jeremy's small group, but I did all the boys' small groups and Sherry did the girls, right? So we said, hey, we're not going to try to choose your friends. We're going to reach your friends. So we just said, we're going to do the small groups. You bring all your friends. I don't care if they're heathens. Doesn't make me any difference. I don't care if your friends are heathens.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to reach them. So you bring them to the house. I'm going to teach them. Sherry's going to cook for them. So first of all, we're going to show you what a family, consistency, love, living out the Bible looks like. And, we want to help you understand how to put it all together in real life circumstances. And so Brady's small group, I think there was, 15, 16 kids in it. One kid had come from a divorced family. Isaac's small group, there was only him and one other person that had 2 parents in the home.
Wow.
Now, how do you take this and say, hey, by the way, you should be training up your children the way they should go and never depart from it. How does it work in a broken home?
Yeah.
How does
It's
it work
hard.
with
I
these
mean,
kids that you're talking about right now that are going home to untrustworthy
It's
houses?
tough. And I mean, I struggle with that too, because Jamin was only 5 when I yanked everybody, so it was tough. And it's one thing if you're on the same page. My boy's dad is very Christian and faith-filled, so they're getting it on both sides. But
that's not always the case.
It is not.
That's probably where not the trust and the respect thing comes in. Because if you have 2 different parents, then it would be hard if they're like faltering, if they're like going on different sides. Like if one believes, one doesn't, then they are recognizing that and they're using it to their advantage.
And they're going to choose the easier one.
Yeah, I know I would.
Right. Well, and I'm just speaking that here's what I've been praying about. Like, here's what I've been praying about over the past month. Here's where I think the church is missing it. The church is set up for 2-parent homes that are functioning at a high level, that care about their kids.
Yes.
That's not today.
No.
That's just not today. That's not the church today.
How many people are divorced? Didn't you have a number for that?
Well, no, I'm just saying, so like in the groups, but like right now, I think divorce rate's 60 some.
It's really high.
I mean, it's a high percentage.
Right.
And again, a lot of, at least at Life Church, there's a lot of broken homes, and I'm not saying it from but honestly, there are more broken homes than there are two-parent Christian, highly involved, training up their kids. And so when we sit up there and be like, you should be doing all these things, and all of these things fall into place. And again, all of that stuff that Taylor said is right, but how do you apply it? Again, how do you apply it to a single mom trying to raise 4 kids who barely can get by?
Right.
Like, are you going to be, sitting teaching your kids the Westminster, whatever he said? Think about it. Like, how are we going to do this when you're just trying to survive? And so what is the church doing? This is where we got to be thinking through this. What's the church doing for a broken home?
Yeah.
What model has the church helped with a broken home? What are we doing to kind of change? Because honestly, church hasn't come out of 20 years ago. No. The church is still old school when it comes to reaching the family.
Yeah.
Church is like nobody got a divorce. You know what I mean? And even if they hated each other, they didn't get a divorce.
Right.
That was 20 years ago. Like, people hated each other.
Not sure how healthy that was either.
No, but that was my point. Way back when, people
Wow.
hated each other and never got a divorce because it was shameful.
Right.
Yes.
If you're inside of the church, you didn't get a divorce. Now nobody cares.
Yeah.
That much. Everybody's just getting divorces.
Right.
And so you add that dynamic. So we're talking about 20 years ago, the church had a model to say, oh, this is what we should do with your kids, and this is what we should do with parents, and this is how we should, train people up. But I don't think the church has shifted into, how do you fix a broken home? How do you, because I think they're lost. I think the church is somewhat lost because they can't get out of there. Well, I just don't understand it. Well, you're right. You don't understand it until you understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You had to. You just said, regardless, it had to be a struggle trying to figure out how to raise kids. Without a husband.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And and my case was different because we had joint custody. So they spent a week with me and then a week with him.
Okay.
And again, their dad is an awesome guy.
Right.
And so it was a different situation, I think.
Yeah.
But, where I teach, I have...
But you know it because you see it as
I've
a teacher.
Seen it. Yeah. And you're right. We would say more of our kids come from divorced or never married parents than come from a two-parent home.
Right.
And I think you're doing a good start here with the kids, with all of the services for the kids. I almost think there needs to be something for the parents.
Oh,
But then you fight into that. I'm trying to raise these kids and I'm working 2 jobs, and now you're going to throw something else at me. How can I? Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer
Abby's
is.
a perfect example. So Abby, gets pregnant with Blake, and she asks Hadley, and that doesn't turn out so good, and then she ends up with another guy, that doesn't turn out so good, and now she's back to, hey, I'm a single mom trying to raise a daughter, working 2 jobs, and I know you want me to come to church, and I know you want me to teach my daughter the Bible. I know you want all, you know what I mean? Because again, that's what I want to keep coming back to, and I keep throwing it out there. So I know Taylor listens, so Taylor, don't be mad. I'm not saying this, but think
love you,
about
Taylor, my Taylor.
Yeah.
No, but think about it from this perspective. Right. When is Abby going to sit down with Hadley? When she's working 2 jobs and teach her those kinds of things. Like, how realistic is it? Like, I don't know. I'm saying because I'm watching it happen in Abby's life.
Well, you just said you guys are going to start a podcast for young people. It's almost like something like that. Like, I listen to this while I'm getting ready in the morning. And then I had someone who introduced me to Stephen Furtick, the elevation guy. So I listen to those things during the week too. But it's almost like you need something that they could listen to while they're getting ready for work in the morning or on the drive to work or something that doesn't take more time out of their day that they don't have.
Right. Yeah, because I think we want to say, well, just make time. Well, I honestly don't know. Again, I watch it now in Sarah's life, where I'd never seen it. Like, I heard about it, but now I'm watching her trying to raise 4 kids. You got to try to make enough money to make it happen. Then you got to run them everywhere.
Yeah,
like, you don't even have anybody to help you run them.
Yeah.
Like, there's nobody to get them everywhere.
Yeah.
And to make sure that they end up at all the, and I always tell her, like, man, you have helped me. Like, it's weird to think this because, with Sherry and I, like, we were able to do ministry in a certain way because we were
together.
a team and we did it together, and now that Sarah and I are together, like I see things completely differently, not right or wrong, just different. Like I have never seen that before. Like I hear about it, but I had never seen
different when you
somebody who's trying to figure out how to love the Lord, trying to figure out how to raise kids inside of it, but also trying to figure out you got to provide for them, which means you got to be working all the time. You got to be running all the time. And then it almost feels bad when somebody steps up there. Well, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, have you ever lived my life?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever been down those roads? And again, not that what Taylor's saying was wrong.
No.
I just think the church in general are speaking to two-parent homes that have it together, who can have enough resources and enough money to be able to do.
And that's just not the norm.
It's not anymore.
No.
So I think the church is going to have to shift.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to start figuring out how to resource and think differently and think in a way. And I think this is a call out to all of you people that are listening here that come from two-parent homes. I know what I know what you're thinking. Right. I know what you're thinking, because I thought the same way. It should be easy.
Yeah.
Why can't they make time? Why can't they ask for help? Why can't they do? I've just seen it differently now. And I'm telling you, I don't care what you do, how good of a time manager is.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be a single mom doing it on your own, it doesn't work.
No.
It just doesn't. We can't fit all those things in. You can't do it all. So I think to people who have two-parent homes who have condemned other people from single-parent homes that wondering why they can't get their crap together, maybe what we should do is think about helping instead of condemning.
Absolutely.
Right. So instead of standing off from a distance saying, what's the matter with you? So, I mean, this is a call out to all of our listeners and to all the people that are watching. Like, if you come from that and you got it all together, then resource somebody who doesn't.
Be
Be a part of the journey of somebody who doesn't.
Most single parents are working the best that they can.
That's my point. Like, it's not like they're not trying.
No.
Nobody asked for this. Nobody wanted it to be this way, but it is. Right. So we're at a state now where we got to do something about it. So for two-parent, families, think about resourcing and helping, right? You can be a part of the journey and you can help.
Absolutely.
I would say for young people and single parents, you need to speak up. Like, we need to know. Like, we need to figure out how to help. We want to resource you. We are a church that nothing's sacred around here except for Jesus. We're going to do what it takes, and we're open-minded to try to figure out what do we need to do, what roads do we need to go down, because we're serious about this discipleship journey, and discipleship means sacrifice. And so we know as a church that we're going to have to do some things that maybe have never been done before, but we're going to be open to it. Like, we want to get down those roads, and we want to try to figure out how to get it done. Because, Patty, you're a perfect example. Jenny, you're a perfect example of when people choose to be known, to be loved, and to love other people, it's life-changing, right? Yeah. And so we have got to get to the place where we can help people, first of all, be known. And once they're being known, don't condemn them. Yeah. You know why people don't want to be known? Because you guys are a bunch of buttheads.
Right, yeah.
Because the church is too judgmental. That's why nobody wants to be known.
Yeah.
Who wants to be known when you're going to come back and say, well.
So true.
So if people are going to be known, then you need to understand, look at those people the way Jesus said to look at those people. Yeah. All people are made in the image of God.
Yeah.
And so that means that you need to look at them as if they are a child of God.
Right.
Not as your project, not as somebody who's got it all messed up, not as somebody that, is doing everything wrong. That's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to say, you know what, Jenny is a child of God. And so I am going to look at her, love her, and spend time with her because she's a child of God and because I love her that way. And I'm going to love her as a child of God, not as a project, not as somebody to work on, not as somebody who's got their life all messed up. I'm going to love her because she's a child of God. She's a sister, and I'm going to love her, in those ways. And I think as a church, if you don't get that right, we might as well close the doors.
Right. Yeah.
If the church can't figure out how people can be known without condemnation, you might as well quit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So church, wake up. It's okay.
A lot of them.
Everybody's got issues. You're just hiding yours.
Yep.
If you're a judgmental little jerk, the problem with you is you just hit them all.
Yeah.
You're better at hiding them.
Yeah, you're better at hiding than the rest
absolutely.
of us are. So stop being, a judgmental jerk, or don't come to life.
Right.
You know, that would be the other thing, because that's not what we do here.
Yeah.
So we want you to know, if you're going to come here and you're going to be a part of Life Church, you know, you need to be able to let people be known, let people share where they're at, and view them with not all the answers. You don't have it all right and they all have it wrong. View them as your daughter, and I want to help them.
And be known yourself.
Right. And so let's start down that journey of being known, and let's start with it, you know, and let's move into this idea is once people be known that we want to help each other, right? And we want to journey down each other. Again, not to fix people as projects, but because they're a daughter of Christ, because this is the way he loves them. And we got to know that we got to do that. But my challenge to the church and my challenge to all of our listeners, and you're never going to get it done if you don't first be known by other people. So if you're in a group right now of a bunch of people who are just like you might want to think about getting in a different group.
Yeah.
Part of our problem today inside of the church is it's cliques of people who all like each other and they love to be together because they're all like each other.
Right.
You got to get in somewhere where not everybody's alike and not everybody has their crap together. You know, part of the problem of Sunday school and church is it's a bunch of Sunday school classes full of people have it together while the broken people can't get in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got to get in groups of people that aren't like us. And you got to be open to be in a group that's not like you. You got to be open to be, you know what? You know, well, I don't know if I want to be in this group because these people aren't as far as long as me. Well, then you're wrong.
Yeah, because that's how change happens between the both of them.
No,
because they can learn something from them
that's
too.
That's the whole idea of discipleship. Titus, when he said younger women, you know, and older women and younger, you know, this is the way it works. Diversity inside of the group. So we got to do that. So challenge all the people out there. If you're going to disciple, you need to be around people who aren't like you, you know, and then you need to be able to help each other,
right?
You know, inside of that journey. So
learn from each other.
Dan, did we have questions for Patty?
Yep, I have them.
Sorry. Okay.
Nope, we had a couple questions.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Question time.
So
Just
first I have
for
to
you.
do a shout out to Taylor because he's Taylor, my Taylor, if you've ever heard me say that.
No, I haven't.
I taught Taylor in kindergarten.
Oh, wow.
You did?
I love Taylor. So he is
Everybody
Taylor like
loves
Taylor.
Taylor.
At Northwest?
It's kind of like Jenny. Everybody loves Jenny. Everybody loves Taylor.
Did you know Shirley Smith?
Yes.
That's my grandma.
I love Shirley.
Yeah, and I had her when I was in third grade.
She's awesome. She
Yeah,
was awesome.
She
Loved
was. Her. Okay. Lisa Leist.
No.
She says, love her. What is she doing these days for fitness? No, Patty, I've seen you walking around the block.
Yeah,
We live
I
in the
do.
same
I
neighborhood.
walk, I
Yeah.
walk
Okay.
all the time.
Yes, I see
really?
you walking.
You're a big walker?
I
Yes.
am.
Okay.
I walk all the time, try to get my 10,000 steps
And
in.
I see you running. She was running the other day.
Some.
You're a runner?
No, not.
She was
okay.
running.
Okay, time out.
She was.
Running is a stretch.
You were running.
I have some friends, we coworkers. So we
Okay.
get together, we do a 2-minute jog, 1-minute walk, 2-minute
wow.
jog.
That is running.
For three
That is
miles.
running. No, it really is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So doing that, yeah, that's basically it.
Oh,
That's
good.
a lot. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't. I can't even
Okay.
walk right now. So you're
Well,
doing a lot.
I taught stability ball at the Y for 15 years, so I just retired
Oh,
from
you
doing,
did?
retired from
Got
doing
it.
that.
Oh,
Okay.
So love Lisa.
yeah,
She's
I know.
awesome.
Me too. I love her too. Shout out Lisa.
Yeah.
All right,
Does
Patty.
Lisa still listen?
Yeah, she does.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. Patty, this is from Jennifer Eller.
Oh, love
When
her.
has God showed up in the classroom, in your classroom?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a good
That
question.
is a good question.
Can you say never? I don't mean that bad.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, is it hard to like put those two things together when you're a public school
In
teacher?
Especially
public
now.
school, yeah, because we can't really talk about any of it. Now, I do have, some kids that go to church and they'll say, something about what they learned at church. Or I guess one time we were doing our little community circle and one little girl started singing Roaring Like a Lion song.
yeah. That's cute.
So that was cute.
I bet, though, out of all the years of teaching, that you have kids that have been like, you were such a big influence, and I'm in church today. Not because you directly told them to go to
Yeah.
church, but because you love them.
Yeah. Like I said, with public school church, I don't know, it's hard. I have had a lot of students come back. I have one student who gives something to my classroom every year
that's
just because
sweet.
I had him. It was my very first year of teaching. Taylor sent me flowers last year on the first day of school.
That's
so.
cute.
Taylor, my Taylor?
You're Taylor, my Taylor.
Her Taylor.
Yes,
Oh,
Taylor,
sorry.
my Taylor.
No, Taylor.
Yeah,
Taylor.
just kids will randomly say things sometimes that, you'll be in the middle of teaching something. I'll be like, well, God says, and I'll be like, That's right. I agree with you, but we can't really talk about that anymore. Let's move on.
So if they say it, like acknowledge him, you can't even like respond to it?
I usually say, I agree with you or whatever, but then I have to, I can't continue the conversation.
That's ridiculous.
So now when I taught preschool at Huntington Catholic, I had lots of fun preschool kid stories. We used to do a end of the day prayer. What are you thankful for? One kid was thankful for trains or squares or, really cute.
Right.
Cute things.
They're cute
like
at that age.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Shane?
It.
Okay. So Jenny, we're going to end up with, so how can people, because there's a lot that we're asking of people today.
Right.
Like,
yes, there is a lot.
It was deep.
Yeah, no, we want people, again, like our challenge in all of this is that, we're saying we're changing or we're challenging the dynamic right now.
Right.
The dynamic of church, the dynamic of relationship, because I want to be honest, like we're losing. I want to make sure people understand that attendance isn't and I say we, not Life Church.
Right.
Yeah, because you're exploding.
But I'm saying in general, Christianity's losing in the United States of America.
Yes.
So we have got to be open to say, let's just blow it all up. Let's just change it all. Like, let's just say, let's let God speak to us. And so God speak to us in ways, and that's what we're saying in this podcast, that we want to say individually, God speak to us in ways that can help us see things the way you do, because the world is different.
Yes, absolutely.
Than what it was. And so, God, Jesus was very good as he walked of understanding the world and understanding culture and ministering to it where they were. And going to where they were and then helping them move to where he wanted them to be. I think the church has got stuck.
Yes.
In those areas. And so I think the church needs to be open to blow it all up and let's figure out where they are and let's try to figure out
where they are. That's
try to figure out how to move forward in that. So again, if you have comments, if you're out there and you're listening or you've watched this and you want to comment, Jenny's going to have a number up here that people can text it.
Yeah. So our number is 260-408-8383. And like Mike said, you can send something about that you just heard today or something random, or if you want to be a guest. That's what Patty did. She sent us a text.
If you're desperate for somebody.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Right. Yeah. Look, that was just recently too. We weren't desperate. But we want to have a conversation with you. We want to hear your thoughts. We don't want this just to be one-sided. We want it to be two-sided. Yeah. And
and we're in the exploratory phase of starting a new podcast that will kind of tie in with the roundtable, where part of our this new podcast is like we want to hear voices. So one of the books that I listened to a long time ago is called Walk to Listen. So a guy walked around the United States of America just listening to people, and then he walked away with, now after hearing where everybody is at, it changed his perspective on life and changed the way he did life because he listened, right?
Yeah.
And I think too many times we spend too much time talking and not enough time listening. So we want to introduce a podcast format, but it's going to be very specific. We want to listen to young people. So we're talking about middle schoolers, high schoolers, young adults. We're going to kind of cut it off and say, even though if you have a voice, if you're over whatever, you have to do it on somewhere else. Sure. Because we want, right, Jenny? I mean, we just want to hear, we want to hear young people point of view. We want to bring on panels of people. So we, if you're scared of like, I have to come on and
by yourself,
because everybody is everybody. It's not so bad, is it, Patty?
No, it's not bad.
An hour and 15 minutes in. And
I was nervous.
Everybody is.
Yeah, but the point is that from the panel, like we'll get 2 or 3 people and young people, and we'll pick a certain subject, and we just want to say, we want your view on dating as a middle schooler. We want your view on church from a high school. We want your view on, again, it'll be religion. We want your view on, like,
even if they're not religious.
No, that's my point.
Yeah, even if they hate God or something.
No,
my
point is this podcast is not going to be specifically for people who are Christians. We're saying,
oh, that's cool.
Like
that's
if
what we want.
You want to come on, and again, we want to hear your voice. So if you're somebody out there that, for whatever reason you listened and you might not be somebody from faith, that's okay for us. Like, again, I've always said I'm not afraid of voices. We're going to bring every voice on, and we're going to listen to it, and we want to hear the perspective, and we're going to try to take those things that we hear. And again, this will be the key of the podcast. We're not going to try to fix them.
Right.
So the idea is to try to fix you when you come on. So
that's
if you're worried that if we give your view on dating, then I'm going to give you a dating, lesson.
Right.
Or if I'm going to give you whatever, like that's not it. We just want to hear it. Like we want to hear where it came from. because the thing that I think we need to remember is most things that are formulated in the lives of people came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so part of reaching people is knowing where they came from, right? Hearing their story, knowing where they came from. And if we listen well and we understand well, we feel like God can work. So if you're out there and you want to be a part of this new podcast, you can text the same thing and get with Jenny. Jenny's working on getting this all together. We're not really sure when we're going to launch it yet, but we're going to get a panel of people, talk about it first, and then bring people on. And we think it'll be a great opportunity, moving forward. So,
Can't wait.
Sounds good.
Again, Patty, thank you.
Yes.
Again,
Thank you.
I can't reiterate enough how cool it is to watch your life. You know what I mean? Over the past 11 years,
Yeah.
I didn't know how long it was.
11
but I knew,
years.
And again, I can speak from this perspective. Like I heard many times where through those decisions, frustration from my wife,
Yeah.
but also she's very proud of you.
Yeah.
And was very much like, wow, the differences that Patty and Anita and Tina, like the things that made in their life. And so, I mean, I got to watch it I was closer up in the beginning. My wife was in it, Sherry was in it from the past, and just to hear her come home and say, wow, what a difference. Look at what God's doing in Patty's life. So it's really cool to watch. And I think that you can pass that on to other people. Like part of your journey is just to be like, look at what God's doing and look at the amazing things that he's done, because he can do it with all of us.
Yeah.
If you're open to be known and you're open to let other people speak into your life, God can do amazing things. So I'm not only excited about that, I'm excited about the next chapter. Right. I'm always looking for what's new, because Sherry's death, like you even said it, like it's not what anybody wanted, but it changed their group.
Yeah.
Right. And it changed it in a way now that things that are happening in that group would have never happened if she was there.
Yeah.
Right.
They just wouldn't. I mean, and that's okay. Like that's how God works.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's why we always you don't want this to happen, but we shouldn't dwell in it so long that we can't see what God wanted to do. Right. And you guys have accepted this is what God wants to do. And he's moving. And so seeing how you guys move forward in the future, in the next chapter, and how you're going to be, used inside of the church and bringing in other women, I'm excited for that journey.
Yeah.
So thank you, Patty.
thank
Thank you, everybody that's listening. And we thank you guys that are joining us by watching. Again, don't forget when Jenny puts it out there, share it, make sure you comment on it so that we can keep getting this podcast out.
Yes.
And again, you can be praying for us as we start this new journey of trying to figure out a new podcast so we can listen to the voice of other people.
Pray for future guests.
Yes, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.